very good morning. You're watching NewsX and I'm Shivani Singh. Russian President Vladimir Putin will visit India for a 2-day trip, with defense cooperation being one of the main agendas. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov has said that discussions may include the sale of additional S-400 long-range air defense missiles. Talks are also expected on India potentially acquiring the Su-57 fifth-generation stealth fighter jets and the advanced S-500 missile defense system. Reports indicate that India is preparing to open formal discussions on these next-generation defense acquisitions during Putin's visit. Now let's take a look at the S-400 missile system and the difference between the Su-57 versus the F-35 and the Rafale jet. Now, these are some of the important defense cooperation areas that we'll be looking at during the summit. So, let's look at the first system over here, the S-400 missile system. Remember, one of the major role players in Operation Sindoor. So, typically the S-400 in Russia right now, long range air defense system. So, this is an air defense long range system and it is designed to shoot down aircraft, UAVs, cruise and ballistic missiles. So, this is what it did when Operation Sindoor was also underway. Now, the third which is there is anti-ballistic missile system and it is specifically for high altitude interception. So, this can actually shoot down UAVs and other ballistic missiles as well. This is specifically for high altitude, and when we look at the Patriot PSC-3, we are looking at medium range air and missile systems. So, this is medium range, these are all long range missile systems, and also Patriot is specialized in low altitude ballistic and cruise missile interception. So, when we are looking at a cruise missile, Patriot PAC-3 will come into the picture because it's medium range and especially specializes in low altitude. Also, when we are looking at the range of S-400s, and this was one of the points that has been pointed out, that it hit a target 300 kilometers deep in the enemy territory in Pakistan during Operation Sindoor, up to 400 kilometers aircraft and 60 kilometers ballistic. So, this is the range profile for the S-400 that India currently is using. The third is for 200 kilometers air targets and exo-atmospheric capability up to 150 kilometers. So, like we've mentioned that this has even longer range in the exo-atmospheric region. So, that capability is up to 150 kilometers. And when we are looking at Patriot PAC-3, since we mentioned that it is medium range, the range is 70 to 100 kilometers in air targets and 35 to 50 kilometers in ballistic targets. So, these are the ranges and how everything is different from each other. Now, the altitude coverage. So, let's talk about the S-400. The altitude, 30 to 35 kilometers of altitude this S-400 can cover, while the third is 40 to 150 kilometers exo-atmospheric capable, and Patriot PAC-3 is 20 to 30 kilometers of this. So, clearly now we are seeing that the target type of S-400s are fighter jets, are bombers, AWACS or the surveillance systems, cruise missiles and ballistic missiles, but limited capacity. So, it has a long range of targets that it can actually hit. The third is short and medium range ballistic missiles. That's it, that's what it can target. And the Patriot PAC-3 can actually target aircrafts, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, but in a very short range. So, remember that the S-400 has varied target types. Now, when we are looking at detection range, so how far can it detect actually these enemy targets? 600 kilometers, and it can track 300 targets. So, 600 kilometers is the range to actually detect. So, wherever our enemies are, it can actually know 600 kilometers deep. The THAAD has a 1000 kilometer plus target range, and it is dedicated to ballistic trajectory. So when it's looking at 1,000 kilometers range, it is only looking at ballistic trajectories. So that is very different from what the S-400 is actually looking at. And the Patriot or the PAC-3 is looking at 150 to 180 kilometers and sector based tracking. So its range is also limited, and it's also limited to sectors that are coming into the fore. Now what's the speed at which it hits? So it is Mach 14 S-400, Mach 8 for Mach 8 plus for third, and Patriot or PAC-3 Mach 4 to 5. So this actually has the highest speed that it can hit its target with. Now cost per battery, this is approximate value of what the cost per battery will be. The S-400s is somewhere between 500 to 600 million per regiment, 500 to 600 million dollars per regiment. The third is 2.5 to 3 billion per battery, and the Patriot PAC-3 is 1 to 1.1 billion dollars per battery. So you have those pictures as well depicting what we are talking about. Now the aircraft type and role, we are looking at how does the Su-57 compare. Now remember that the Su-57 is a 5th generation stealth fighter jet. How is it different from the others, F-35 and from the Rafale? Now the Su-57 is a stealth capable multi-role fighter and heavy class. So this is a stealth fighter jet and multi-role capabilities. The F-35 is also a stealth multi-role fighter, but it is medium light class. So its difference is in the weight category, and Rafale is a multi-role fighter. It's not a stealth fighter, and it's medium class. So very similar to the F-35. However, remember that the Su-57 is a 5th generation aircraft as well, as comparable to both of them. So like I've mentioned, what does the generation is there? The Su-57 is a 5th generation, F-35 is also 5th generation, very comparable. It's a Western version, and the Rafale is a 4.5 generation. So that's from France. So remember that these are the generation, the latest technology that we have in terms of fighter jets. Now stealth, this is a partial stealth aircraft. F-35 is a full spectrum stealth aircraft, and Rafale is not a stealth aircraft. When we talk about stealth aircraft, it's its capability to actually be undetected in the enemy radar. Speed and performance, when we look at the Su-57, the maximum is Mach 2.0 plus, and Super Cruise Mach 1.6, and range is 3,500 kilometers. The F-35, the maximum is Mach 1.6, range is 2,200 kilometers, and the Rafale is Mach 1.8, Super Cruise at Mach 1.4, and range is 3,700 kilometers. So speed, the Su-57 always trumps over F-35 and Rafale, and even in terms of the distance. Now maneuverability, which is very important when you handle an aircraft, it is extremely agile. The Su-57 is extremely agile, the F-35 is moderate, has moderate agility, and the Rafale is highly agile as well. So this is the difference in the maneuverability of all these three aircrafts. Now the payload. So the payload is basically how much weapons or weaponry you can carry in order to carry out, if you want to carry out attack missions. So the Su-57 can carry a payload of 10,000 kgs. That's a lot. F-35 only 8,100 kg, and the Rafale at 9,500 kg. So you can see how the Su-57 is actually very impressive, even though it's the 5th generation all across the board. Now what's the cost approximately? The Su-57, approximate cost is 45 to 55 million dollars. The F-35 is 77 to 85 million dollars, and Rafale at 100 to 120 million dollars. So you can see this is approximately relatively a better option for India with all its facilities. So clearly you can see how the Su-57 actually suits India's needs and how India will actually look at buying these aircraft from Russia. Now, in fact, let's also take a look at the global media coverage on President Vladimir Putin's visit to India. All right. Before we go to that, I'm joined on the broadcast by Major General Sudhakar Ji. Thank you, sir, for joining us. We appreciate your time. A very good morning to you. We are looking at, defense deals between India and Russia. But most importantly, we are also looking at how these defense deals are benefiting India primarily and also Russia, but it is also giving a boost to our Atmanirbhar Bharat program, because all these technology that we are looking at, where even if we look at the Su-57, we are looking at a technology transfer, we are looking at production in India, and if we look at the S-400s or S-500s, we are also looking at joint production in those sectors. So, this is something that is giving a boost to India and in fact to Russia, because we have options of buying the F-35, or we have another option from France as well. But we will in fact look at a Su-57 given the various factors that I have just listed, sir.
Yeah, Shivani, good morning. Thank you for getting me for your show. In fact, you have already answered your question. In your question lies the answer. Okay, let me cover them one by one. First and foremost thing, the central point of your question is, how is it going to contribute? Indo-Russia relationship, how is it going to contribute towards Atmanirbhar Bharat? Today in the world order, Russia is the only country which is offering transfer of technology, TOT, without any strings attached. Whether you talk about co-research, co-development, co-designing, then co-production or joint production, all co means joint. It is only Russia which is giving a very spontaneous outright offer. And also, going by the cost factor, this is comparatively, I would say, most competitive in the world order. So out of all the options you have listed out, please don't go in for, my strong recommendation to Government of India is not to even consider F-35, because F-35 itself has been rejected by the American forces. They are going in, they have already started inducting and deploying F-22. So, because F-35 at number of places and occasions, you saw one recently, couple of months back, which came and landed at Thiruvananthapuram, although it had an environment of suspicion under which it came and landed there. The purpose and intent is still under investigation, I believe, but still the capability of F-35 came to limelight. So similarly, there have been many F-35 cases, whether it is Red Sea or Mediterranean. Houthis have knocked them down in Japan, in the USA. So this is one part. Why India should go in for a full-scale collaboration? Because there are certain things which have been tested, tested under battle conditions. You see, THAAD, we talk about THAAD, that is an air defense kind of a ecosystem or a platform. THAAD has given a laudable success in Israel. It has given laudable success in UAE in the recent past. UAE, there was a missile attack from the Houthis, I don't remember the exact date, when it is brought down. Otherwise, UAE would have been under heavy attrition. But also keep in mind that very third is also PSE, that is the Patriot missile system. When you look towards Saudi Arabia, 2019, either May or June, the Houthis had managed to penetrate. There is a gap in every air defense system. The gap is between 100 to 1000 feet, that narrow gap, which is not covered by any radar system. When you talk about the air defense system, it has got a seeker, a sensor, a radar which is seeking the data information about the oncoming missile or the weapon system. Then it has got a mechanism to transfer the data and gives command and order to the striker. The striker has to strike, it has to lock onto the target, and the projectile which is launched, it must have a navigation system, either auto navigation, or it should be so controlled by artificial intelligence that it must have initial lock-in data, it must have a mid-course correction, it must have a terminally guided point, which I presume India has. That's how we had a thumping success in Operation Sindoor. It could penetrate through the gap. Bahawalpur is a classic example. It should be actually studied as a case study. Bahawalpur in Pakistan is a place where the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the largest headquarters over there, in fact 8,000 odd Hamas had already reported for training, and nearby airport was around 5 to 9 kilometers away. Airport had SQ-9 system deployed, as also the PL-15E, that missile system, which is generally fitted on J-10 and JF-17 aircrafts. Despite they having everything, Indian Armed Forces managed to penetrate through the gap and hit the targets point blank, absolutely precision target without any collateral damage. So why am I bringing out this point is that they had the best of the lot of the air defense system from China, and they also, Pakistan incidentally enjoys some degree of air defense cover from the Patriot as also the third. This is what the unofficial information coming to me, because the nuclear arsenal of Pakistan is directly or indirectly under the control of US. So therefore, if I have to sum up and respond to your question, we need to go ahead. It is the evergreen friendship, strategic partnership with Russia, and we must collaborate and take it forward on the lines of BrahMos, the way we have built and jointly developed. And also now we are in the final stages of developing a hypersonic missile out of the BrahMos category.
Absolutely.
And it should be getting onto the deployment stage by end of December this year itself.
Right, sir. Thank you so much for providing all those valuable insights. In fact, let's take a look at the global media coverage of President Putin's visit to India. That's what we will be highlighting over here and looking at. How is the New York Times actually covering Putin's India visit? Right now, the main headline of New York Times actually reads, "What to know about Vladimir Putin's trip to India?" And it's focusing on how the Trump administration or the US is actually keeping a close eye on Putin's talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, because remember that there have been sanctions that have been put across by the US on Russia, on India as well. So this will be a keen topic that Washington will actually be looking at. When we look at CNN, so CNN's headline reads that a trade deal with Washington and a warm welcome for Putin. Can India have it both ways? That's the question that the CNN is actually asking. This is India's diplomatic split screen. On one side, potential purchase of fighter jets, cheap oil and friendship forged in the Cold War. On the other hand, American collaboration on technology, trade, investment, and the hope President Donald Trump will actually lift his punishing tariffs. So the CNN is discussing how India is actually facing two-front thing during this visit. Will they be pleasing Putin or will they be siding with US? The BBC, so this BBC is looking at oil, defense and geopolitics and why Putin is actually visiting Modi in India. So the BBC or the UK is actually looking at why the whys behind this entire summit, and they are in fact stating that the Kremlin is enjoying demonstrating that Western efforts to isolate it over the war in Ukraine have failed. So that's the most important point that is coming out from the BBC. They are stating that this is why he is visiting India, because this proves a point to the world that despite the sanctions, relations between India and Russia continue. The Washington Post, the headline reads that Putin's visit highlights India's imports of discounted Russian oil in the face of US sanctions. So obviously the US still talking about how it has sanctioned India and Russia for oil, and they are stating that even though Vladimir Putin is there in India, this entire summit is aimed at deepening economic, defense and energy ties, even though the war in Ukraine is currently ongoing. So this is how the Washington Post is actually looking at this entire visit. They are stating that the summit goes on even though there is a war raging. Al Jazeera, this is based in the Middle East. How is Al Jazeera actually capturing Putin's India visit? It's stating that Putin's visit to India amid Ukraine peace push, what's on the agenda. So they are focusing on what the agenda is and why Putin is visiting India when there is a talk about Ukraine peace plan. So that's one of the things that they have been talking about in their article. They have also stated how since the Cold War, India and Moscow have been close friends, and how since independence from the Britain in 1947, India has actually looked at formal alliances. So this is how the global media coverage actually looks like, and you can see how the US media is actually pointing out how there are sanctions, and media in the Middle East are focusing on the agenda.